Now welcome to another Marvel Cinematic Ranking, where this time we'll be taking a look at the results of the poll for the first Avengers movie. We'll then see how it ranks against all the other films we've done thus far, which is now all of Phase 1, before I then read and respond to some of your comments. But before we get to all that, just let me point out that the poll for the next film, that being Iron Man 3, is now up, and if you'd like to vote and or comment on it, and it hasn't appeared in your feed, a link to it will be in the description below. And no, it shouldn't take me a month to get to this one like it did with this poll and this video. And speaking of this poll, let's now get to the results for The Avengers, where we'll see that 33% of people gave it 5 stars and thought it was amazing, 54% then said it deserved 4 stars and thought it was good, 11% gave it 3, which left 1% to give it 2 stars, and a final 1% to give it 1 star, thinking it to be terrible. And so when we do all the math, that means Avengers gets an average score of 4.17 stars, which puts it into second place behind Iron Man, which I am a little, if not very, surprised by. Don't get me wrong, that first Iron Man film is great, it's a classic, I'm not saying it shouldn't get top honors, but I really thought Avengers would beat it, and beat it by a pretty decent margin actually. I was expecting Avengers to be one of the top few in the whole MCU, and now I'm not so sure where it's going to ultimately finish. But anyway, before getting to your comments to see maybe why it didn't beat Iron Man, let me once again just say thank you to everyone who votes, comments, and watches these videos. It is all greatly appreciated. Also a big thank you to everyone who supports me over on Patreon and helps keep this channel going. And so now let's kick this off, as we always do, with the top rated comment, which this time came to us from Formula Iser, who said, "This movie is what probably got me into the MCU and superheroes in general. Still remember watching it in theaters when I was 13. Still love it to this day. Nostalgia is definitely playing its part. 5 stars." And I mean, in some ways, a lot of ways, I think the MCU is this generation's Star Wars, or as close to Star Wars as anything can ever get these days, or will ever get again, considering the world is just a different place now. There are so many more entertainment options and literally at your fingertips, that it's hard for one to stand out so much further than the rest, and for any real length of time, like Star Wars did back in 1977, when there was nothing else like it anywhere, and wouldn't be for some time. And I think it was Avengers that really cemented that, or cemented the MCU's place in history after, like Star Wars, it just changed the game or the industry forever. Just like everyone back in the day wanted to copy and duplicate the success of Star Wars to make their own movie just like it, these days, everyone wants their own shared universe like the MCU has. And though I do love the concept and the way Marvel's pulled it off, and it's brilliant from their side of things to have a series of movies all linked together, sort of compelling you to see them or to watch them all to get the bigger picture or story, but not necessarily needing to see them all to get it. But the thing is, not everything or every franchise or studio needs to go for this same approach, and too many movies sort of lose sight of just making one good movie in favor of trying to set something much bigger up and set something up 5 movies down the road. And I think Marvel was very smart about it, or with their initial approach, by only putting loose connections or threads in these first 5 films that tied it all together. It wasn't, or the stories weren't directly all about building towards the Avengers. Instead, Avengers sort of happened in the film itself, if that makes sense, or they came together out of a need because of the story in that film. It wasn't that the other 5 movies before it were just setting up Avengers. Alright, let's now move on to this comment from Dom Skywalker, who said, "Avengers is an absolute classic. I remember seeing it 3 times in theaters. It was the first movie to ever bring together a group of characters from different movies into one phenomenal piece of fiction. Not only did it popularize the idea of expanded universes, but also brought some much needed attention to some very underrated Marvel characters." And I think you're really touching on one of the most impressive things the MCU has pulled off, which is turning almost completely unknown characters, at least unknown outside of comic book fans or circles, turning them into household names. And they've done it with characters you would have never even guessed or imagined they'd even try it with. The success of Avengers and the trust fans have in the property or whole MCU now has allowed them to bring in whatever characters they want, and fans are more than willing to give them a shot, and they almost always enjoy them. Now, will this magic last forever? That's hard to say, because I do think you have to worry about making everything too big, too interconnected, and things then becoming very convoluted. Again, the first Avengers film was a rather simple story anyone could watch and enjoy no matter what you'd seen before it. But with so many movies now and more to come, not to mention Disney Plus shows, well, there's a lot to juggle and keep straight if you're the average fan. Also, it gets hard to explain why we don't see more heroes teaming up, like in the Avengers, for any and all types of threats that arise. Why does any hero not call in some help? If the world is in danger, why do they face it themselves? But anyway, that's a discussion for another time or another video, so let's now get to this comment from Landon Matthews, who said, "Ah yes, the movie that still treated Hulk as the terrifying force of destruction he is, rather than the walking meme he was in Endgame." And yeah, I wasn't a fan of Hulk/Bruce Banner in Endgame, but I did love him in that first Avengers film. Just so many great moments, be it Banner saying, "That's my secret, Captain, I'm always angry," or Captain America telling him to smash, or him beating the crap out of Loki at the end. And it was also great to see Banner sort of coming to terms with Hulk in this film, realizing that it could be a force for good if it's aimed in the right direction. And in Endgame, I feel like they just didn't know what to do with his story anymore, or with the Banner and Hulk story dynamic. And so we ended up with a merging of the two, which, yes, happens in the comics, but I don't know, I just didn't really like it in Endgame. Alright, and moving on then, we have this comment from Alex Larson, who said, "I can't give the Avengers anything other than 5. That movie has so many awesome moments. I feel like they took every opportunity they could to show us different Avengers, interacting and doing combo moves. Every character got to use their skills and abilities in a useful way. It really felt like the culmination of all the solo MCU movies that came before it." Also, we have this one from Nathan K, who said, "Possibly my favorite movie. Every character is given time to shine, even Loki. Though it's a fun action movie, you also get hints of romance, horror, thriller, even philosophy. Also, each character gets a memorable quip or two in. Oh, and zero girl power/diversity shouting. Men are allowed to be men, and women are allowed to be women. 11 out of 10. Then we also have this one from the Maddie Ice 615, who said, "An amazing movie that did what was once impossible, connecting so many characters with so many stories and making it work. The most impressive part about this movie for me is how everyone gets their time in the spotlight in this movie. You had Cap, Iron Man, Thor, Loki, Hulk, Widow, Hawkeye, Fury. Everyone got their moment to shine." And I think one of the most impressive parts about Avengers is that, yes, every character had a chance to shine. Everyone had their moments, like I was just saying about Hulk. And none really outshined the others, which isn't easy to do considering the different power levels at play here. It's easily one of my favorite movies of all time, and I think it holds up extremely well. Which brings us to this comment from Animator James, who said, "Let's get one thing straight. The Avengers, when it came out, was revolutionary, and many people would solely say that movie should have been given 5 out of 5. But over time, that feeling has worn off, and I started to see some cracks like in many movies, but I can't deny how the movie redefined what a crossover movie could be like, so I would give it an 8 out of 10. Then there's this comment from Murray Hopkins, who said, "If the Avengers would have been released today, I would give it a 4 or maybe even a 3-star, but because of the landscape of superhero movies at the time, that being there really wasn't one, it basically has to be a 5-star, an absolute classic." Also here we have a comment from Michael Jordan, who said, "When giving this rating, I'm trying to think about how it was when I first saw it. I had never seen a multi-movie character collaboration like this before. Loki was a horribly evil villain, Tony Stark was still the selfish douche canoe in his own charming way, Agent Coulson was still alive, we had no idea what an Infinity Stone was. When I first saw that movie, it was so epic. The action was intense, the stakes were world-ending, and the comedy that was there hit just right. Even more so, the hype afterwards when we all realized that this was going to be continuing with more movies and more characters was unreal. Because of that, I give the movie 5 stars. And I don't know, like I was saying before, I think Avengers holds up quite well, and I almost feel strange saying that because the movie is only 9 years old, which is hard to believe in itself because it feels like it came out yesterday. But I certainly don't think it's that old or that it's lost something over the years. Now, maybe some think it does lose something because the stakes aren't as high as they are in Infinity War and Endgame, or that it's not as flashy overall as those films. But personally, I like that there is a bit more of a simple story to it. And yeah, you could say that it's a classic aliens coming to Earth and taking over the planet trope, but never before had it been done anything like this by bringing all these different heroes together from other films. So again, I don't know, maybe the power creep is causing people to look back at this and be less impressed. You know, it's only Loki and some aliens, nothing today's heroes or Avengers couldn't handle without breaking a sweat. And this is a big problem I think Marvel faces. We started with Earth in danger, then it was the universe, now it's the multiverse and essentially reality itself that's in danger. In other words, there's nowhere left to go from here. But anyway, let's now get to a few final comments before wrapping this up. Starting with this one from Cryogen1990. That's maybe a bit too long to read in the video, but that you're free to pause and read for yourself if you'd like. Our next one up then is this one from Last Stand, who said, "Some movies are a masterpiece of storytelling. This one certainly is. It laid the foundation for all the later Marvel movies." Then we have this one from Cheese is Jar, who said, "I'm still amazed that this movie simultaneously maintains continuity from the previous movies and makes perfect sense if you haven't seen any of those movies. Plus that long take through the end battle with all the Avengers fighting is one of the greatest moments in the MCU." Also here we have this one from Monotail, who said, "Was a great start of what would change superhero movies forever." And this one from Phil Hackworth, who said, "This was such a watershed moment for films. It has, unfortunately, driven so many other studios to strive for connected universes, even when it doesn't make sense. But this movie, A+ for me." Next up here we have this one from Russian Spy, who said, "This is my all-time favorite movie. It's so amazing, so inspiring, so cool and epic and funny and grand. I enjoy it every time I watch it. It has some of my favorite characters in fiction, some impressive action, great music. It's all just too good. I can't explain the hype I feel as eloquently as I'd like, but to put it simply, it's what made me a Marvel Cinematic Universe fan. It fully refreshed my fandom for Marvel in general, and it's why I avidly follow and watch all the Marvel movies and shows that have been released ever since. So yeah, The Avengers is amazing." Moving on, we have this one from Dylan Evans, who said, "I'm surprised the poll is so overwhelmingly favoring 4. This has to be in my top 5 MCU movies as a whole. Madness, a definite 5. Then we have this one from Bree Gill, who said, "I worked in a comic shop at the height of the MCU's popularity. The boss required us to always have a movie playing. We had about 12 to choose from. I probably listened to the Avengers 200 plus times, and unlike every other movie in the store, I still liked it when I left that job. Say what you will about the plot or anything else, that is the only movie I haven't gotten sick of." And finally here we have this comment from James White, who said, "This movie was fantastic. It did a great job of giving just enough introduction to remind you who the characters are without retelling their stories. It allowed the other movies to stand alone while building on their world. And it gave more depth to more characters than any previous superhero movie or action movie before it, while still delivering the goods." Well, that's all I've got for you this time. Now it's your turn to tell me what you think of the first Avengers, or what you think of what I or anyone else had to say about it here in this video. So leave a comment below and let's talk some Marvel. And until next time, thanks for watching.